Today, we're going to talk about something that might just change the way you see yourself and maybe the way you see everyone around you. We're diving into the hidden strengths of quiet, inspired by the incredible work of Susan Cain. So, does this question land with you? You know that feeling, that little voice in your head that says you should be talking more in meetings, or you should be better at networking, or you should just be, well, louder? If so, trust me, you are not alone. And get this. That thought comes from a highly successful corporate lawyer, right in the middle of a massive negotiation. It just goes to show you, even people at the very top of their game feel this pressure, this nagging sense that their quiet nature is some kind of a weakness in a world that seems to prize being loud. So, where does all this pressure actually come from? Well, it has a name, and understanding it is really the first step. Let's dig into what's called the extrovert ideal. This is basically the invisible rulebook we're all judged by. It's this deep-seated cultural belief that the ideal person is a social butterfly, a natural leader, someone who just shines in the spotlight. It's so baked into our culture that most of the time, we don't even realize it's there. But here's the thing. It wasn't always like this. This ideal is actually pretty new. There was a huge cultural shift that took us from focusing on a person's character to focusing on their personality. Let's unpack how that even happened. And a huge part of that story is a guy named Dale Carnegie. Back in 1902, he was just an insecure farm boy, terrified he wouldn't know what to say to people. But he looked around and saw that the charismatic public speakers were the heroes on campus. So he decided he was going to become one of them. And he did. Then he basically bottled up that transformation and sold it to an America that was changing fast, a country that needed salesmen and managers, people who were smooth operators. And this shift was a big deal. We went from what was called a culture of character, where we valued internal things like duty and integrity, to a culture of personality, where what mattered was how you came across to others. Suddenly words like magnetic and charismatic were the goal. It all became less about who you were on the inside and more about the performance you put on for the world. So this new ideal changed how we do a lot of things, especially at work. It led to this idea that the best ideas always come from people working together in groups. But is that actually true? Let's take a closer look at this collaboration myth. I mean, this belief is everywhere in the corporate world. An absolutely huge 91% of top managers believe that teams are the #1 key to success. It's pretty much become gospel. You know the drill, right? The classic brainstorming meeting. We're all told that if you get a bunch of people in a room bouncing ideas off each other, you'll get more creativity than you would from any one person. It makes sense on the surface. But a famous study at the company 3M decided to actually put it to the test. And whoa, the results were not what people expected. Look at this. They compared the ideas from groups brainstorming together with the ideas from the same number of people working alone and then just pooling their ideas afterward. The people who worked alone didn't just do a little better, they totally crushed it. So what does this all mean? It's pretty clear. Solitude is often an essential ingredient for creativity. This modern obsession with constant collaboration, what Susan Cain calls the new groupthink, might actually be killing our best ideas. It turns out that to get real innovation, sometimes you just need to let people close the door and think. Okay, so if the extrovert ideal is flawed and groupthink isn't all it's cracked up to be, what's the alternative? This gets us to the really good part, uncovering the unique, often overlooked power that comes with being quiet. Let's talk about someone like Eleanor Roosevelt. She was famously shy, famously soft-spoken, but she became one of the most powerful people of her time. How did she do it? This quote from a historian gives us a hint. Her power wasn't about being the loudest. It was about quiet, relentless persistence. And here's what that persistence looked like in action. She wasn't standing on stages giving grand speeches. She was listening. She traveled all over the country for thousands and thousands of miles, just absorbing the stories of everyday people. Her quiet sensitivity wasn't a liability. It was her superpower. It let her connect with people in a way that no shouting politician ever could. And, it's so important to remember that this extrovert ideal isn't a universal truth. It's a cultural choice. You can see it right in our common sayings. In the West, we say things like, the squeaky wheel gets the grease. But in a lot of Eastern cultures, the proverbs praise stillness and silence. Strength is found in being the mountain, not the howling wind. And you see this play out in how we raise our kids. Research shows this huge difference.
In a place like Canada, shy kids are often seen as having a problem. But in China, those very same traits are praised. A quiet, sensitive child is seen as understanding, and they're often the ones picked for leadership roles. It's just powerful proof that our ideas about the right personality are made up by our culture, not by some law of nature.
Okay, so let's bring this home. Knowing all of this, what do we do about it? How do we build a world that values everyone, and how can quieter folks really thrive? Now, this is maybe the most important takeaway of all. This is not about introverts versus extroverts. The goal isn't to flip the script and say introverts are better. The world needs both. We need the bold action of extroverts and the deep thinking of introverts. It's all about balance and appreciating what both sides bring to the table. So if you're someone who leans a bit more on the quiet side, here's a little toolkit for you. First, just honor your style. Stop trying to be someone you're not. Second, find what are called restorative niches. These are just quiet places or times that let you recharge. Third, follow your passions. The things you genuinely care about will give you a kind of energy that you can't fake. And finally, and this one's huge, share your gifts. The world really truly needs your thoughtfulness, your focus, and your quiet persistence. So I'll just leave you with this question to think about. In our constant rush to be loud, to collaborate, to always be on, what amazing ideas, what deep insights, and what real connections are we missing? Just waiting to be found in the quiet.